Okay, so imagine this. You're the U.S. Department of Energy. You've got billions of dollars worth of nuclear weapons in a facility literally called Pantex Plant in Texas. You've got state-of-the-art radar systems, you've got motion sensors, you've got guards who probably had to memorize every nuclear button ever made. And then something shows up on your radar that you can't identify.
Now, you're probably thinking, okay, they definitely took pictures, ran some tests, called NASA, did the whole thing. Like, the government has trillion-dollar defense budgets. Of course they figured it out in, 5 minutes. Wrong. They were so confused that they had to call the frickin' Sandia National Laboratories, which is basically America's nuclear nerd headquarters, and ask them, guys, what is this thing? And honestly, the document doesn't even tell us what they concluded. It's just blank. Which means either it was so weird they couldn't explain it, or the government was like, yeah, we're not telling you that part.
So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to tell you exactly what Pantex saw that day, how the radar tracked it, how Sandia tried to enhance the image, and why the government basically said, nope, can't show that part. Because apparently even declassified documents have parts that are too declassified to share. And stick around because this wasn't the only time something weird showed up at a nuclear weapons facility. All right, so before we talk about the intruder on the radar, let's talk about what Pantex Plant actually is. Because this isn't some random Air Force base. This is the place where America stores and maintains its nuclear weapons. Think of it like the Amazon warehouse of nukes. You got thousands of them coming in and out. The only difference is, instead of delivering your iPhone in 2 days, they're like assembling or disassembling weapons of mass destruction. Fun times.
Now, you'd think a place like Pantex would have the Fort Knox of security systems, right? Armed guards, biometric scanners, the works. And they probably do. But apparently, the one thing they didn't account for was a mystery object deciding to take a scenic flight over their airspace and say hi to the radar tower. Here's where it gets interesting. Pantex has ground-based surveillance radar towers, and I mean ground-based. This isn't some satellite looking down from space. These are actual radars sitting on the ground, sweeping the sky 24/7 like paranoid hawks. So when this object showed up, the radar caught it, got a clean track, image included, everything. So you'd think that would answer all our questions, right?
So the Department of Energy, which oversees Pantex, looks at this radar image and goes, yeah, this doesn't match any aircraft in our database. It's not a plane, it's not a helicopter, it's not a weather balloon. So you know what? Call Sandia. They're the smartest people we've got. If anyone can enhance this image and figure out what the heck this thing actually looks like, it's them. Okay, so here's what the document actually shows. Page 5 has the original image from the ground surveillance radar tower. It's literally just a radar blip. You know, those green dots you see in action movies. But Sandia National Labs didn't stop there, because on page 6, they provide what they call enhanced images of the object. And this is where things get weird, because they enhance the crap out of these images, trying to figure out the actual shape of this thing. So the Department of Energy, which oversees Pantex, looks at this radar image and goes, yeah, this doesn't match any aircraft in our database. It's not a plane, it's not a helicopter, it's not a weather balloon. So you know what? Call Sandia. They're the smartest people we've got. If anyone can enhance this image and figure out what the heck this thing actually looks like, it's them. Okay, so here's what the document actually shows. Page 5 has the original image from the ground surveillance radar tower. It's literally just a radar blip. You know, those green dots you see in action movies. But Sandia National Labs didn't stop there, because on page 6, they provide what they call enhanced images of the object. And this is where things get weird, because they enhance the crap out of these images, trying to figure out the actual shape of this thing.
Now, here's the thing. The document says that Sandia Labs did all this analysis. The document says they figured out the structural shape of the unidentified craft. The document says, here's what we found. But then you turn the page and it's just black. Or it says
redacted. Or worse, it says approved for release 2026, but parts classified, which is government speak for we're showing you just enough to mess with your head, but not enough to actually know anything. So here's what we can deduce from the non-redacted parts. 1, it showed up on radar. 2, it was in the airspace over a nuclear weapons facility without permission. 3, the radar captured clear enough imagery that the government thought it was worth sending to Sandia Labs. 4, Sandia Labs spent time and resources enhancing images to determine the structural shape of this thing. And 5, they never published their conclusions publicly, which means either A, it was so classified they couldn't release it, or B, the results were so weird that saying them out loud would make people lose their minds.
Now, here's what I find really interesting. This isn't the first time something weird has shown up over a U.S. nuclear facility. In fact, if you look at government documents from the 1940s, 50s, and even into the modern era, there's this pattern. Something shows up on radar or gets spotted visually over a place that makes nuclear weapons. Sandia's involved. The government gets weird about it, and then it goes in a file and we don't hear about it for 40 years. So the question isn't just what was that thing over Pantax? The question is, why do these things keep showing up over our most sensitive military installations? And more importantly, do they know something we don't?
Okay, I'm gonna put on my tinfoil hat here for a second, but responsibly. We know that whatever showed up on Pantax's radar was tracked. We know it was analyzed. We know Sandia considered it significant enough to enhance and study. We know the government has been seeing these things for literally decades at nuclear facilities. And we know that whatever those results were, they decided not to tell us. So I'm not saying it's aliens, but I am saying that if I'm the government and I'm running a nuclear weapons facility and something shows up on my radar that I can't explain, and then I see it happen again at another nuclear facility, I'm probably asking some very uncomfortable questions. And I'm definitely not publishing those answers on page 6.
And here's the thing that makes this even weirder. Pantax isn't the only place this happened. In fact, if you look at our declassified documents, we've got reports from 1973 at a Soviet Union weapons testing range where someone saw a bright green circle in the sky. We've got reports from 1948 to 1951 at Los Alamos where multiple sightings of green lights were documented over nuclear facilities. And we've got scientific teams actually collecting atmospheric particles after these incidents and finding materials with weird metallurgical compositions. So it's not like this is a one-off. This is a pattern, and the government has been documenting it the whole time.
So where does that leave us? Well, if you're the US government in 2025 and you're sitting on declassified documents that show a 75-year pattern of unidentified objects showing up over your most sensitive military installations, you've got some questions to answer. Like, how many times has this happened that we don't know about? What did Sandia Labs actually conclude about the Pantax object? And most importantly, what are you planning to do about it? Because just filing it away and hoping nobody finds out clearly isn't a long-term strategy anymore. These documents are being released. The public is asking questions. And the government's answer so far has basically been, it happened, we don't know what it is, sorry, redacted.
So that's the Pantax plant incident. A mystery object, a government response, and absolutely zero answers. But don't worry, because next time we're going back in time to 1949, where green fireballs were showing up over New Mexico so regularly that the government got desperate and started collecting atmospheric dust to figure out what these things were made of. And what they found was very, very weird. If you liked this breakdown of declassified government paranoia, smash that like button and subscribe for more classified documents that the government thought were too boring to keep classified. Drop a comment telling me what you think showed up on Pantax's radar that day. And if you work for the DOE and you're watching this, I'm just kidding, obviously. But seriously, if you've got more declassified documents, send them my way. This channel runs on government secrets and existential dread. So yeah, keep it down. Uncle Sam still thinks this is classified.